In this video, I want to show you how to mix monitors using a Studio Live board. This video is shot using the 24-channel board, and it has 10 auxiliary outputs. Now for each of the auxiliary outputs shown in this section here, we have a corresponding jack on the back of the board. Those are the jacks where you connect up the powered speakers that you have for your stage monitors, or you could connect up your in-ear monitor system if you'd like. So each aux represents a potential monitor mix. And I've got two set up here, and you'll be listening to these two different monitor mixes as we go through this. Now the knobs are the overall level. When I first sat down at this board, I thought this was some sort of a send for the channels 1 and 2 to send off to the monitors. Well, now that's not what it does. It's actually just the level for aux 1, or for your monitor channel 1. And so that's what that's for. The actual mix is set up on the encoders, and there's one encoder per channel giving you a full set of mix controls, and that is enabled using the mix button right here. Now before we get into that, let's just take a look at the other controls we have on the aux section. We have a solo, and this will route the aux to the solo bus so you can listen to it in your headphones so you can see what any particular monitor mix sounds like. You have a mute that basically turns off that monitor entirely. If you got sudden feedback or something, you can hit the mute. That'll turn off the monitor. Now the actual aux output itself can have fat channel processing. Ordinarily you'd use this in a couple of ways, and you access it by hitting select, then the blue light comes on. Then you can maybe roll off the lows a little bit with the high pass filter, or you could dial in some EQ to tweak your monitor so that it doesn't feedback, or just so that it sounds good. So that's what that's for. Now the real business part of this is the mix button. When we hit the mix button, it changes the fat channel encoders to actually represent the mix. Now right now nothing's happening, but if you start to turn this up, then there you go, there's our kick.
Oh, I'm done running. I think it's time. And know that I stand right by your side in all these good and bad times. Oh, I'm done running.
All right, so that's how you basically set up the monitor mix. You hit mix, then you can dial in for all of the channels. Now one thing that I find that makes this a little easier if you have a lot of monitor mixes is to actually duplicate your scribble strip that we have down here at the bottom of the board. If you duplicate it up in this area here, it puts it right next to these. So if you're at a fixed installation, you're doing this, or you're working with a regular band that, you know, it's a regular gig, then adding that other level just makes it that much easier. So I'm just going to show you what that looks like. So then what I'll do is move this up, and it'll cover up where it says control, but I label my monitors right up in this area here. I just leaned on that mix control, and then I just duplicate this onto some artist tape, and I just did this away from the board. I just took the other scribble strip and just laid it up over there and quickly duplicated it. Now I can see what all of these are. It makes it so much easier to dial in the monitor mixes. I like to leave this area clear so that I can see aux 1, aux 2, aux 3, etc., because that tells me exactly what jack I'm connected to on the back of the board for quick diagnostics. So that's kind of how I use that. Now let's take a look at the mix button again. This is a 3-position button, or it's a 3-state button. If I hit it one more time, it goes into this mode where I've got all these double lights. This just basically means I'm in a mode where these do something new, where I can mix in some more stuff, and these do nothing. Whenever you see this dual LED, you can just imagine that these controls are kind of X'd out. They don't do anything. This happens in a few other situations on this board, and that just means ignore these. But what that does is it opens up these little labels along the bottom. This D, tape in, aux in A, aux in B, effects A, effects B, effects C, effects D, and the talkback mic can be mixed into the monitor there. So here's the talkback, here's tape in. We'll cover those coming up. You can also mix in your master effects into the monitor speakers using this. In the manual, this is called aux flip mode. And really what it does is it extends the monitor mix. If you hit it once, this is all your input channels. You hit it again, it adds these additional things you could mix in to each monitor channel. So with that, let's go on and mix a second monitor mix. I'm just going to mute off aux 1, and then we'll turn up aux 2, and we'll create another mix. We do that by just hitting mix on that aux channel. You can see some things are already turned up. I'll tweak this a little bit and set up another mix.
Baby, hold my hand. I need you to hold my hand. Baby, hold my hand. Ooh, I'm done running. Baby, hold my hand. I need you to hold my hand. Baby, hold my hand.
All right, so I dialed that up, maybe a little bit more like a background singer would like. There's no guitar in there, but a little bit of piano, a little bit of synth. Of course, you'd probably want the lead vocal in there as well. So that's the basic way you mix the monitors. Now, there's one more detail about mixing monitors that has to do with the actual fat channel processing that we use on the individual channels. Any individual channel can have the high-pass filter, the gate, and then the compressor, limiter, and equalizer applied. Now, sometimes in the monitors, that might lead to a situation where you could feedback. Too much compression or maybe too much high end or something could lead to feedback. So you have a choice of whether you want this in the monitors or not. And you can select how it works for each auxiliary output. Now, the way you set this up is to go to the LCD screen in the master control section, hit System, and find page 4. Just page up and down until you find page 4. Then for each auxiliary output, aux 1 through aux 10 on this particular board, you have a choice of 3 settings: pre-1, pre-2, and post. Now, post is typically used for effects, for sending to external effects, because it comes after the fader. That's not typically what we would want for monitors. For monitors, by default, we select pre-1. And I would say most of the time for stage monitors, wedges, normal monitors, you would use pre-1 for your monitors. Now, pre-1 means it goes through the high-pass filter and the gate of the fat channel. Now, if we select pre-2, we use the entire fat channel, the high-pass filter, the gate, the compressor, EQ, and limiter. That's what pre-2 is all about. Now, normally I would use pre-2 with in-ear monitors because adding additional dynamics and EQ to in-ear monitors is very unlikely to cause any feedback problems. So if you're just getting started with this board, it's advisable to set these all to pre-1, except for ones where you're sending off to rack effects, then you would set those to post. We'll cover that in a later video. And with that, we've covered the basics of how to mix monitors on a Studio Live AI board. We're going to get into stereo monitors in the next video.